they're closing stores. So now, and this is according to In These Times, they are, by the end of the month, the coffee chain said it's going to close 6 stores in Seattle and Los Angeles, 2 in Portland, Oregon, as well as locations in DC and Philly. On Wednesday, Seattle workers from Starbucks Workers United, the union that's been organizing stores across the country, filed an unfair labor practice charge, arguing the closures amount to retaliation and illegal coercion against union activity. Of the 16 stores set for closure, 2 locations in Seattle have successfully unionized, and 1 store in Portland is set for a union vote in August. So, is there a correlation there, Janice?
Absolutely. I mean, even some of the stores that didn't have, public campaigns yet, like the one in Union Station in Washington, D.C., had already started having those organizing conversations. The first store that Starbucks, closed in a high-profile situation was the Ithaca College Avenue store, which they closed a few days after the workers there went on strike over a health and safety issue that they'd been talking about for 5 years. So the subtext here is, if you complain or if you say that you're unsafe, then, we're going to shut your store down. And if you have organizing conversations and try to unite with your coworkers to do something about this, then we're going to close your store down. So, I mean, that's the latest in the scorched earth tactics. Tomorrow, Starbucks is rolling out, this whole slew of benefits that they originally announced, thinking that they could actually break the momentum of our union votes in Buffalo. And now they're saying, since you voted to unionize, we're not going to give these to you because now you're union and we have to wait until you have a collective bargaining agreement. And we've said, whoa, 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 we waive our right to bargain about these. If they're really improvements, like, go ahead, give them to us. We're not going to stand in your way. And they're like, nope, not doing that. And it's, very obvious why they're
So
doing that.
something you didn't, a benefit they're basically just dangling. And does that have to do also with, like, I know Starbucks is speaking out about, like, abortion rights and abortion access, trans healthcare benefits. Is this something they're just sort of jumping onto the corporate bandwagon, whatever one might think of that bandwagon, whether it's virtuous or not, and they're like, oh, JK, maybe we won't give you those benefits because you,
Exactly.
well, I guess we have to wait for your contract.
No, exactly. Like in union stores, they've been, or in unionizing stores, as people are trying to decide if they're, gonna vote yes, as managers and everybody are telling them, everything's gonna be different if you unionize. You don't know what's gonna happen if you unionize. You could lose your benefits. You could lose your health care. Um, we can't guarantee that you're gonna have all these things. And they've been retaliating against unionizing stores by slashing hours. They've actually cut hours massively across the country. And in order to be eligible for benefits, including healthcare, including, abortion reimbursements and gender affirming care, you have to be working 20 hours a week. And because they've cut so many partners who were, just at that threshold, now people were just audited by the company and, kicked out of their healthcare, kicked out of the ASU tuition reimbursement program. So it's a very like tiered and multifaceted way of union busting,
Yeah.
because you have the, overt threats, and then you have the more um, direct, like, we're just taking all of this away because, you're not meeting standards because we've started, you know,
And
cutting your hours.
is SW, is the union like filing with the NLRB around that, or like filing
They
complaints?
filed hundreds of charges across the country. I mean, I wish the labor board moved faster because,
Yeah.
we're in an unfair labor practice trial in Buffalo right now where the labor board is suing Starbucks for over 200 violations of federal labor law and, you know, hopefully going to reinstate fired workers, reopen a store that Starbucks closed as part of their union busting effort. Um, Order the union into the Camp Road store where the union busting was so intense that workers were in, 6-on-1 captive audience anti-union meetings and having, 6 or 7 managers stationed in their store telling people to vote no. Um, but
Jesus.
that process takes so long that it's going to be, well over a year of Starbucks being allowed to do whatever they want before we'd even, potentially start seeing some accountability.
How about yourself? Like, how has it been in Buffalo? Like, what are some of the changes? What are the wins? But then what are like what's been going on in terms of those busing tactics or some of the threats?
I mean, it's designed to wear us down. I'm in a standoff with Starbucks over my availability where they're trying to get me to quit. And I'm like, I want to work at Starbucks. Like, you just can't keep messing with my availability. Um, but I think, it's designed as psychological warfare. Everything that they've been doing from day one was psychological warfare. And it's nothing new. Kind of going back to the other question about like, is this a different kind of campaign? This is what
Right.
companies do. Starbucks is just able to do it on such a massive scale because they had, an army of 150 managers and corporate execs that they could fly into Buffalo. They have the resources to hire, at least 50 Littler Mendelson union busting attorneys. Um, they can really keep debuting these things on a huge scale. But this was always part of a industry project because, in Buffalo, we'd organized a local coffee shop previously, and that one was called Spot Coffee. I actually kind of ended up being the lead organizer for that campaign by accident because I was the one that could stay in Buffalo and grab picket signs when workers were fired in retaliation for union organizing. And the lesson of that campaign was, a company that started out saying, like, turn over the names and we're going to fire anybody who attended this union meeting. Very quickly, once the community was like, Buffalo's a union town, we're not going to go to a place that, you know, is firing workers for organizing. We're going to demand that they respect the right to organize and sign the fair election principles. Within about 3 weeks, Spot Coffee had folded and, decided that now they were going to live with the union and actually, decided that it was both great ethically and as a business model to be a social justice company. So I think there's hope, but it's going to take a
Well,
lot of
especially
accountability.
if we can replace all these closing Starbucks with other coffee shops that have like union jobs. I mean, it's so funny because I came up during a time when it was like, politically, when you're like Starbucks on every fucking corner and you're like, what's going to stop this monster from spreading? And you're like, oh, a union drive of workers from the inside, and that's not a good thing. Obviously, I'm not saying like, yay, fewer jobs, but you're like, here's this monstrosity that, I mean, they're not scared. What they're actually scared of is just Schulte taking a little bit of like a pay cut, right? Like that's all it is. It's the
I think
CEO taking a pay cut. Tell
I
me.
think it's also just power. Like this is about Howard Schultz's ego at the end of the day because it's not about money. He's losing money union busting. And the labor board, isn't moving as quickly as would be helpful, but the labor board's going to order all these stores that Starbucks is closing to reopen. So they're
Mhm.
not really getting away with it. I think it's just more delay tactics before Starbucks really realizes, the only way forward for them and the only way for them to keep their reputation as a company that's, different or progressive is to actually work with us and sign a contract.
I wanted to give Emma a chance to jump in, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, sure. I just didn't know what the timing was for you, Fran. But I guess I am curious too about the reports and your reaction to when there was that proposal to give pay increases for workers that were non-unionized. Now I know that you guys filed with the NLRB because that's such a clear union busting tactic that
Mhm.
of course you had to. But what came of that? I mean, what was your reaction, and what is the status of that right now?
So the litigation is still ongoing because, we filed those, the labor board's investigating, et cetera. Um, The actual wage increases are supposed to go into effect starting tomorrow. So those are rolling out. A lot of people at non-union stores have been reporting that, the increases are actually significantly less than they were promised, which kind of underscores why we needed a union in the first
Right.
place
Right.
because you
Right.
can't count on corporate to actually follow through. Um, but I mean, the back pay for union partners is going to be significant, obviously, once the labor board says you can't actually do that, especially when, you know, the union's been saying, like, we're not putting any obstacles in your way. Like, go ahead and give us these benefits. We're not
Yeah.
standing between us and the
Right.
benefits.
Yeah, it might make negotiation a little bit smoother, but you're still gonna have to fucking negotiate. I mean, and here's the progressive corporation we're talking about. This is from this week. I'm sure, Jazz, you saw this. Lilette on Twitter. That time my boss asked me if I could change the day I put my dog to sleep for Starbucks. So this is a back and forth, I believe, with their manager. Sorry, I'm trying to find coverage for my Sunday shift. I have to put down my dog Saturday night and it will be an absolute mess. She's my best friend. Just letting you know ahead of time, I'm going to text some people and see if they can help out. Manager, I'm really going to need you to find coverage. I understand it's a tough situation, but you have plenty of notice. So it's not going to be approved if you don't come in. Is there a way you could do it on a night where you don't work the next day? I'll do my best, but I'm sorry it's inconvenient. It's a family dog and she's very sick. And this is what my family's decided to do. I can't reschedule when I put my dog down for Starbucks. Goes on. This is also my official 2 weeks. I've worked for this company for 2.5 years and I appreciate what it's done for me, but I'm ready to move on. I mean, we just lost Jazz again, but 2.5 years at Starbucks, and they can't fucking allow you, they can't deal with the fact that you're giving them a short notice for like your dog dying, you're having to put your dog down. Like, just, that's straight evil shit, Jazz.
Oh, absolutely. And sadly, I mean, that's not uncommon. I think the interesting thing is how wide the range of reasons that people have been unionizing is, because my store was probably one of the most functioning Starbucks in the country when we started, and corporate descended on our store and was like, okay, we got to find a problem because this can't be, workers wanting a voice or wanting accountability. It has to be because there's a carpet in the back room, or because somebody called out at lunchtime, or they would go down and try to basically corner people into giving them a reason that we were unionizing. But at the same time, other stores had managers getting away with firing 3 trans partners in 2 months because they were transphobic management, and nothing had been done about that until the union started. And then Starbucks was like, okay, maybe we can prevent the union if we start giving people what they want.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do